The late 70s, a time of change, they said. But some things stayed the same. Fear, ignorance. Our neighborhood held on to them tight. I was just a child, growing up fast in a world that didn't always make sense. We were a family of storytellers. Big personalities, loud laughter. My uncles, especially, had a knack for turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. Pranks were their specialty. Harmless fun, mostly. Or so I thought. One aunt she liked to sew, made costumes for every occasion. Halloween was her time to shine. She'd spend weeks hunched over her machine, creating magic with fabric and thread. That year she outdid herself. A masterpiece, she called it. I didn't know it then, but that costume would weave itself into my nightmares. The air crackled with excitement that Halloween. Costumes were donned, candy bags ready. My uncle, he was the life of the party. Always had a smile on his face, a twinkle in his eye. That night he chose my aunt's newest creation, a long flowing robe, white as bone. He came out laughing with the hood pulled low. It had a point, like a dunce cap, but it wasn't funny. Something about it felt wrong, cold. The adults, they laughed, told me it was just a costume, but I felt it, a chill, deep in my bones. He pranced around, pretending to be a ghost, chasing us kids. We screamed and giggled, running away. But I wasn't laughing anymore. The fear, it clung to me, like the smell of damp leaves after a storm. The pranks didn't stop with Halloween. That costume, it became a fixture. My uncle, he'd pull it out at the most unexpected times, late at night sometimes, when shadows stretched long and the world felt full of secrets. I remember one night, waking to a sound, a scratching at my window. My heart pounded in my chest. I peeked through the blinds, and there he was, the white robe glowing in the moonlight. He saw me and let out a low, guttural laugh. I ran, hid under the covers, my breath caught in my throat. He came to the door, scratching at the wood like some kind of animal, whispering my name in a voice that sent shivers down my spine. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside my window sent me further into a spiral of terror. Section 4. Whispers and Wonder. I didn't understand, why did my uncle choose that costume? Why did it scare me so much? The adults, they just laughed, told me I was being silly, but I knew. There was something more to it. Something dark and ugly that they weren't telling me. I started to listen, to whispers at school, stories on the news. I heard about the Klan, men in white robes, burning crosses, spreading hate and fear. And I understood. The costume wasn't funny. It was a symbol of terror. The fear I felt, it wasn't childish nonsense. It was the echo of generations past. The inherited trauma of a people who had known true terror. And I realized my uncle, in his ignorance, had brought that terror to my doorstep. Section 5. History's Heavy Cloak. My uncle, he was a product of his time, raised in a world where racism was the norm, where jokes about colored folks were commonplace. He probably didn't understand the weight of that costume, the history it represented, the pain it evoked. But that's the thing about history, it doesn't care about your ignorance, it doesn't care about your intentions. It casts a long shadow. And sometimes that shadow manifests in the most unexpected ways. Section 6. Unmasking the Past. I never confronted my uncle about the costume. Maybe I should have. But the fear, it lingered. Even now, all these years later, the image of that white robe still sends a shiver down my spine. But I've learned that ignorance is a dangerous thing, that history matters, and that sometimes the things that scare us the most are the ones we need to face head on.